Two Guys, One Shaker Cup podcast, hosted by Joshua Shaw and Ryan Buckeye.
What's up, everybody? Welcome inside the Two Guys, One Shaker Cup podcast. Josh Shaw, Ryan Buckeye, back with another. I believe this episode will resonate with a lot of people because Josh and I both have, I guess, the luxury or the pleasure of working within the fitness and sports nutrition world. Josh does some stuff outside this world too, but predominantly this is kind of where our beds are, where we made our beds and where we're at. And we do it because we're passionate and we love this space, but we had to obviously fall in love with this space, and there's reasons why we fell in love with this space, and there's a reason why we're staying here, most importantly, because, you know, a lot of people out there, Josh, will change careers. They'll change, not just careers, but change the entire area in which they work in. They might go from, food marketing to chemical sales or something that's completely different. But we've chosen to be in this industry, stay in this industry. And to be honest with you, I have no desire to leave it ever in my life. And there's a big reason for that. And today we want to talk about the role of fitness has played in our lives and some of the lessons that it's taught us that we use in our lives today, that we think a lot of you who are passionate about health and fitness are probably going to listen to this and be like, you know what, those are things that I love too. And those are things that I taught that fitness has taught me, because fitness is not just a tool to look better and feel better. Like, it literally it is to a lot of people. To me, it's my anchor. It's what I turn to decompress. It's what I turn to really help me get through things in life. Sometimes they're tough. And then, so I'm super thankful for it. And again, there's a ton of lessons that I've learned. And I'm sure, Josh, you've been in the industry longer than I have. So you're still here, at your young age of 26. So, or 23, whatever you are. And, that's what I want to talk about today. And I know you're pretty passionate about this as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of us, fitness in its own way has kind of changed our lives, and it's been a pillar in our lives. Right. I think that I think most males that are into sports and things, when you're growing up, like at the beginning, I think for most of us, there are probably some that maybe enjoyed that aspect of it, but it was conditioning. It was something that you had to do. It was just kind of whatever. And I don't know if you really fall in love with it more than just like it's a task set that you need to do to get on the field, and that's right. Just kind of what you do. Where then especially for me, when I got into college, that was when I was able to obviously make all of my own decisions on a day-to-day basis. And one of the things that I got into was fitness. And it took me like a little bit of time to kind of get going, but after that, I kind of fell deep in love with it. And I've kind of gotten in and out of it where like I find different styles I like or whatever it is. But I think the constant is that I just enjoy just the aspect of just getting up and just going and just kind of getting some sweat going and just feeling like I accomplished something during that day. And like, it took me, when we kind of brought up this topic, I needed to reflect a little bit, because right. I think that with fitness and then just like day-to-day life, you don't really notice a lot of the lessons that are getting taught to you. A lot of times you just end up like, it's just kind of your day-to-day kind of going through your paces. And when you finally like take a look back and reflect, for me, it's been over a decade of like really enjoying fitness. And there's just been some big things in my mind that I think it's like taught me, that's kind of translated into lessons that have worked in terms of my professional life or personal life or whatever it is. But it was the lessons of the gym, the iron, or whatever you want to kind of consider it, that actually, built those things in for me. And I think like the first one that I kind of want to talk about, and I wrote down a few of them just because I think they were all kind of important and different, but I'll just kind of cover the first one here, is that I think it's a matter of like starting with the basics. Like when I was starting out, I had to learn the basics. I had to learn the compound movements. I had to learn these things first and foremost before I got into anything fancy. And I think that that's the same case of like anything in business or whatever. Right. I tell people I work with, like that I'm consulting with or advising with, and like they're trying to add all these fancy variables and all these, advanced techniques. And I'm like, you're not even good at the basics. Like you need to focus on the basics first, get that stuff, like all that stuff situated. And then you can move into the more advanced things that you see that are sexy or whatever. And that's the same that happened to me with fitness. Like I got into bodybuilding.com early on, and I remember reading some of those articles and things and saying, damn, that looks so cool or whatever. But I knew that like that wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. Like I needed to really focus on the things that were basic, that I knew that was going to build the foundation of everything. So that's just kind of my first one. I hope that people that listen to this can relate to that one because you should.
Right.
I mean, that one's like the common denominator in all this is that if you're not really good at the basic things, you're never going to be able to master the advanced movements.
You think about life in general, right? You have to crawl before you can walk. I mean, it's pretty simple. Like, you can't walk until you learn. Like, most people, well, I shouldn't say that. Some babies do, but most people have to crawl before they can walk. But you can't get to, like, Calc B before you take algebra. And these are certain things in life that you have to learn first before you get to the next level. And I can relate to that too, because I've always had this desire to be like a C-suite professional. I've always wanted to be a CEO or top of my game. But I had to learn everything else before I could get there. And whether it be when I was at Mills, I thought maybe I should be higher up. But again, I learned so much more in sort of a basic role for what I was in, that I didn't have the skill set that those above me had at that time. And to your point, in fitness, I recall, like, when I first got in, like, I started getting bigger and I started getting muscles, but I didn't know how to properly do a fucking deadlift, which is like a compound movement, like one of the best compound movements you can. And one of my buddies taught me how to do a deadlift. I could barely deadlift 135. But then to teach yourself the basics, like Josh said, like, first off, like, here's how you properly do a squat. Here's how you properly bench. Here's how you properly deadlift. After you get down the basis of that, then you can move in to everything else. So yes, it does resonate in terms of fitness, but it resonates in the terms of life. Like, I get if you're hardworking and you have a shit ton of drive and desire, but you also have to have patience with that, which is you need to learn the basics of everything else before you can get to potentially where you're going to go. Because if you get to where you go and you never learn those basics, it's going to come back and bite you in the ass and cause you some type of hardship or pain later on in life. Because I can't imagine in fitness just like doing all these ancillary movements and just never doing compound movements. I would never have the physique I have today. It just wouldn't be possible. I need that stuff. So that's a really good one. And honestly, I didn't even think about that until you brought it up. And I was like, you know what, that is really good, because that can resonate with so many people in so many different aspects of life, whether it be parenting or your job or whatever it is. Like, learn the basics, learn the crawl before you can walk, and let it humble you a little bit. Like, realize, like, this is normal. And for those of you who've maybe never been in a gym before, understand that too. Like, if you walk in for the first time and you see Josh and someone like us doing these crazy movements, like, don't think that's where you need to be. Like, learn what the equipment's names are and what the intentions are, and then go through with a personal trainer or somebody to understand what the intention of that equipment is and what the results are that you're supposed to get from it. So I like that one. The one that came to my mind first, and it's probably the biggest one for me, is fitness taught me the lesson of confidence. More so than anything, I think, because a couple things. One is, as you see your body change, you get more confident. Because yes, we talked about this before on a podcast about how sex sells and how physical appearance is important to a lot of people. But as you start to recognize that you're changing, you're becoming healthier, you become intrinsically more confident as a person in general. Whether you're walking into a board meeting, going to work, coming home to your wife or girlfriend, like, you just have a little bit more swagger to you. And that's not possible without fitness in my world. Like, if I didn't have the weight room and I didn't have weights, I would probably still be that overweight kid with no confidence, maybe mentally depressed, and that's not a good thing at all. So it offered me confidence, but then you also get confidence within the gym too, as you get stronger. And if you're into PRs and you do a PR, like, that's a confidence boost too. Sometimes it boosts your ego maybe a little bit too much for those listening. Like, don't think that PRs are the end all be all, but having that confidence can translate into so many different aspects of life. You can become a better parent, be a better employer or employee, whatever it might be. But that has been, for me, the biggest gift that fitness, I think, has ever given me, was just that boosting confidence that I lacked before I found the gym.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a lot of people that start working out, a lot of times it goes around, like, at least for males. I don't know if we can't speak for females, but a lot of times the main reason why men start working out is because they want to look better for females. They want to attract better looking females. So it's one of those things where that helps you become more confident, and it's useful regardless if it's in the gym, out of the gym. You kind of touched on one little area, and one that I kind of wanted to bring up around, like, PRs. And this is this idea that, like, the harder something is, the more weight it is, the more rewarding it is. Like, right. And I think that that's, like, something that, again, like, resonates with life, because the harder something is to achieve, that harder that goal is, the more rewarding, the better it feels. And I think that's kind of a lesson that I got taught with fitness, is that you reach for these big goals. You say you want to have this total, or you want to, I want to bench 315 or whatever it is. Like, it takes time to get to that, and it takes a lot of, whatever to get to that goal. And then when you achieve it, you're like, wow. But then you also, understand that was just maybe a false summit, I guess, in a way. Like you just reach for that next goal, and that's just kind of how life is. Like you get to that, it's rewarding, you're like, great, and then you work to the next one, and that's kind of translatable to the gym, but also to life in general.
I think too, to that point, that can also be a motivating factor for people, or it could also be discouraging as hell too, right? Like if you never are able to achieve what you're trying to achieve and you get so discouraged that you quit, that might say a lot of you as a person too. So like, I mean, in business, it's not easy whether you're wherever you're employed, if you're given a goal of something and it's hard to get there, I mean, you have to put in the time and put in the work. For me, I had a goal once upon a time of deadlifting 500 pounds. All I wanted to do was deadlift 500 pounds, which is a big feat for somebody who was 5'7.5", and I think at the time I was like $180. That's a lot of fucking weight. But in my head, I'm thinking like, I know I can get there, but how do I get there? It literally took me like 6 months doing some different variations of deadlifts and some back work to be able to build up my strength to the point where I was actually able to pull 500, and I struggled like a motherfucker. I struggled, but I got that son of a bitch. So to your point, like it was rewarding, but then in that case, it's like the process and the journey to get there is what's super important. The end thing is great, but what really makes that rewarding when you achieve that goal is everything that you did prior to that. So, and this is huge in fitness because whether it's a competition, you want to step on stage in 16 weeks, that's one day. You get one day to step on stage under the lights, maybe 2, depending on the show. But you had 16 weeks of a journey that is what makes it so rewarding. So all the work that you do to get somewhere, whether this is a real thing, like trying to conceive a child, right? Like when you finally conceive a child, say you're a couple listening to this or somebody who's having a very difficult time with that. Because a lot of people in this day and age do. I was one of them. We had a very difficult time with it. When it finally comes and you're told like you're going to have a child, you just think about that entire journey that you and your significant other or your partner went through to get there. And that's why it makes it so much more rewarding too, because sometimes it's like it looks impossible on paper. Maybe you don't think you can get there, but if you work hard and you put the time in, don't get discouraged and accomplish whatever that is, that's a huge life lesson. Like, don't give up. And it sounds cheesy, Josh. It does. Like a lot of people say like that just sounds cheesy. Well, it's true. If you don't give up and you keep working your ass off and you work hard, you can get it, right? Nothing's impossible as long as you put your mind to it, I believe is what my mom used to tell me. And I think people tell you that all the time. But that is a great lesson that you can learn in any aspect of life, but specifically in fitness because you're always constantly putting up a number that you want to reach for something, whether it's a weight goal or a PR, and that's hugely important in somebody's life.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you touched on something about just like somebody that doesn't ever achieve some of their goals, and then that's a totally different type of person. That person maybe just doesn't have, the mindset. Is probably one of those like, person that's not really a high performing person. But I think that for us, I think when we fail at a goal, because we do have, we understand the process, we understand the work that gets involved, we understand whatever, but sometimes there's just some goals that just are not achievable. And when we do fail, that's a lesson in itself for us. I mean, and that's in another sense, it's like I've had a lot of times where, I've said, oh, I want to, achieve this specific goal, or I want to get in this type of shape. And then you get down to it and you're like, it just didn't happen for me this time. But then I learned something. I said, okay, well, it was because I didn't do this, or I didn't train this way, or I didn't, I cheated on this vacation, or whatever it was. There was always a variable that I said, okay, now I could take that and learn for the next time I put this into play, this plan into play again. And that's just in another sense, like just goal setting and failure or achievement provides some type of, positive attribute that you can build off of in the future.
And I think that comes down to the person too. Don't see it as a failure, but see it as a learning opportunity. And I think to that point too, in terms of goal setting, and I don't want to get too far off topic here, make sure your goals are realistic too. If you're making an unachievable or unattainable goal that you may never achieve. Like if my goal is to deadlift 1,000 pounds, I'm dead in the water. It's never going to happen. It's just not going to happen. I can take as much juice as possible and eat as much food. I'm never deadlifting 1,000 pounds. It's just not fucking happening. So make sure that your goals are realistic too, because then it does obviously give you, otherwise you're just going to be discouraged and be like, I'm a pussy. I can't lift 1,000 pounds. Shoot me in the foot. No, just make sure it's realistic. So I think so far the three things that we talked about is obviously like learn the basics, fitness taught us confidence in terms of like goal setting and achievement. That's big too. The gym for me is also an area of respect. I think when I walk into the gym, I want to take care of that equipment. I want to put stuff back where it belongs. I want to respect others who are stepping into the gym for the first time. the last thing I ever want to do is discourage somebody from coming through those doors and not taking the step to better their health and fitness through a gym membership. And I know not everybody's like that, Josh. We know a lot of bros and douchebags in this space who just care about themselves and not others. But for me, it is such a respect issue that, or such a sense of respect within the gym that it really taught me to understand. And I come from a small town like you. Like, we've had diverse backgrounds. I learned to be able to like respect and love and like everybody. And that helped within the gym too, because everybody's there for the same reason. They're trying to live better lives through fitness. They honestly want to live healthier lives. So that is the biggest thing that people need to understand within fitness. And that's a respect factor, that you should learn to respect everybody else, regardless of their shape, size, color, or sexual orientation, or what they believe in. Like, just respect them. And I don't know if there's people listening to this podcast, if they're, one way or the other, they may not appreciate that or approve of that. I don't care. I love anybody who takes a step in the gym, who wants to better their lives, and who legitimately wants to become a better version of themselves. Like, that is a super sign of respect to me, and I'll never judge somebody for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's always the New Year's resolutionists, like people always around, like advanced fitness people will always post these things like, oh, the gym's going to be packed and all this kind of stuff. Like, great. Like, you want the gym to be packed. Like, how great is it for people that are interested in changing their lifestyle? Like, you should be supportive of that, because there was a time when all of us were at that level that we stepped foot in that gym that first time and we're like, we didn't know what to do. We didn't know what was going on. And for you to like lend a little bit of a support and just say, hey, like, looks like you don't really know how to use this machine. Can I show you? Or whatever it is, like, just be respectful, try to help people. When you were talking about this, I was also thinking about it in a non like personal standpoint, but also from like respecting like the facility, respecting the equipment, respecting everything. Like, to me, like, one of my biggest pet peeves in general is when people don't treat other people's equipment, other people's stuff like their own. Like, if you are tossing shit around and you are like leaving trash on the floor or whatever, like, would you do that in your own house? Like, first of all, if you do that in your own house, you're a piece of shit. But second of all,
yeah, there's a lot of people out there that do that.
Yeah, and you should honestly, like, that's like, I used to tell this all the time. Like, if you see like a piece of trash, and I'm talking like even on the street, like, and I'm not saying go out and like ruin your whole day by picking things up, but like, if you see something that like should just be picked, just pick it up, throw it, like, just leave it a little bit better than how you came. And it's just a matter of like those actions show other people that it's okay to act that way. And then it's kind of like a perpetual kind of thing. But I just feel like, I know you rant about this a lot on your IG stories and stuff. I see you talk about like when people don't put their weights away or things like that. And that's just, I mean, I think we have all at one time maybe forgot, or, something happened where we, it is what it is. But I would say for the most part, like, just respect that business, that equipment, that stuff that you get to use for $30 or $40 or $50 a month. Like, how great is it that you get access to all of that stuff? Like, treat it great because you want it to stick around. Yeah. I just always just drives me crazy when you see people like, especially doing like inclined bench presses or something with dumbbells, and like the weight's too heavy for them, and they just like toss them at like angles, and like the barbells, they're going to split one of these days. Yeah. And it's like, then this gym owner has to pay for those. You're out of this equipment. It's like, just respect people, but also respect the equipment. It's just like, should be one of those things, like treat it like church in a way. Like, you know what I mean? Like, when you walk in there, that's a sanctuary. That should be something that you just try to make sure you're respectful to everybody and respectful to the surroundings around you.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the gym for me is my worship center. That's where I go on Sundays. I mean, that's my place that I enjoy. But to the point, I don't think a lot of people understand too how expensive some of this equipment is. Like, there are hundreds of thousands of dollars of equipment in some of these gyms, and by breaking them, what you're doing is you're going to increase your membership rates at some point because they have to keep replacing shit because you're being an idiot. But another thing on that too, in terms of respect, what I find is, like, especially in our industry, Josh, what is just the irony of our industry is, if you get people in the gym, like, we support each other, like, we want people to hit PRs. We don't get jealous and have this ego and look at somebody like, my God, he just squatted 500 pounds. What a piece of shit. Like, he doesn't deserve that. But within sports nutrition, somebody comes out with a new product, nobody's ever happy for anybody. It's, my God, he's a piece of shit. He stole this and that. Like, it's so ironic to me that inside the gym, there's that level of respect that some people don't carry out in the business world. And for me, this whole sense of like encouragement and sense of accomplishment for others, I am very happy when people achieve their goals in the gym. I'm also very fucking happy when people achieve their goals in business, whether it be a coworker, even like to some extent, like even a competitor sometimes. If a competitor is doing something to better the industry or to improve it, you're like, good for them. Like maybe there's this little sense of jealousy, like I wish I would have done that. But you should really still, at the end of the day, kind of be happy for them because they're doing something groundbreaking that nobody else has done. I don't understand how. For me, it's taught me that. Like I'm super happy for like if you told me like I just signed a contract with this big CPG, it's going to pay me $100K for the next 3 months or whatever. Would I be jealous? Would I hate you for that? God no. Go get it, Josh. You get paid, bro. You get paid. But it's like I just love. Within the gym, you get people that stand around maybe the deadlift platform and encourage somebody to pull. But outside the gym, that's not necessarily the case all the time. But I take it outside the gym, and I'm the guy that's sitting around screaming, pull, trying to encourage people to be better and to achieve their goals at the same time.
Yeah, that supportive nature in the gym. I mean, it obviously depends on the gym as well. Like I go to a lot of corporate gyms, so like there's not a lot of that interaction that happens. But I'll say that people aren't staring at you and judging you like, oh, I wish, they're not giving you those looks or whatever. But in business, I mean, I've been around in this sports nutrition world for a while. And what I'll say is like, for whatever reason, yeah, I mean, like ego gets in the way. Like you're not happy for other people's successes. You unfortunately like think they got it some way or somehow they achieved it because they had some things in which they had some luck or whatever it is. It's like instead of just saying like, oh, they killed it, I got to pick up my game, I got to do better, like look internally instead of like projecting that outward. A lot of times same with the deadlift situation. Like if I look and you say you're doing 500, like I need to look at myself and say like, what am I doing that I'm not getting to 500? Like, am I not training the right way? Am I not eating the right way? Am I not doing whatever's doing? Like, and that should be the same way in business. But for some reason, it's always just like you project that outward into like, oh, they're doing something shady. You try to discredit what they're doing because you don't want to look internally and say like, I didn't do the work I needed to do to get that done.
That's a good point. That's actually a lesson right there in itself in the gym is like I consistently look internally. How do I get better? One thing that pisses me off, and we've talked about this maybe outside the podcast, is if I'm pulling. So my PR in deadlifts is 565 now because I kept working on it to go. But I guarantee people watched my video and right away said the only reason I could pull 565 was because of my TRT use, my steroid use. Guarantee it, right? Those are the people, the same type of people outside the gym that look for excuses on why they're not doing something because, saying that I had a competitive advantage versus looking internally and looking and saying, what are they not doing? It's not that you're not taking steroids. It's that you're not working hard enough, for fuck's sake. So in the gym, for me, I'll never look at somebody who I know is on gear and say the only reason they're able to do that is because they're taking something. No, that person, him or her, worked fucking hard towards something that they wanted. They achieved it. I'm going to be happy for them. So this is like, we could do a whole podcast on this. But if you're listening to this and you're that person who consistently looks at others and say they achieved X because of Y, and that Y is not hard work, consistency, and dedication, but maybe cheating, you need to change your fucking tune and look internally and figure out why you're not accomplishing the things that you want to accomplish. And it'll change your fucking life. You will start to accomplish things. You will, if you're not that person, you can't do it, then you're fucked. Simple as that. You're never going to be that person. You're going to have a very hard time in life. So those are very good lessons that the gym has taught me. Another lesson is just, we kind of talked about it in terms of respect, but there's a certain camaraderie, like maybe not at the corporate gym, but at a small gym, like it's a sense of family. And for me, I walk in, I know everybody's name, they know who I am, a big sense of respect amongst each other's. But like there are a lot of people, and maybe we can say it's like a lesson of being sociable, because there are a lot of introverts in this world. And maybe if you're an introvert, it might be hard for you to step in the gym. But I think the gym at times, if you're an introvert, you start to kind of step out of that introvert shell, out of your comfort zone. And it's uncomfortable for you for a little bit, but then you start to kind of make friends. You start to feel more like of a sense of a community, and you start to open up a little bit more, which then translates into just bettering your life in other aspects too, whether it be at work or home or whatever it might be.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it a few times on the podcast. Like, I'm definitely an introvert, and what I'll say is like that's hit the nail on the head for me, because when I did go to gyms that were more of like local spots, like mom and pops, or even like CrossFit gyms or things like that, that's more built around like communication and community and things of that nature. Like I ended up meeting a bunch of people. I talk to a bunch of people I normally wouldn't. Now at a corporate gym, it's headphones on. I don't really want to talk to anybody, and that's just gets me more into like my introvert ways.
Right.
But I think that to your point, I mean, it definitely depends on the environment in which you're in. But if you tend to put yourself in that position, you get to know people because it's you're in a space that you're all trying to achieve goals and you're all trying to push hard, and you see people in a very like painful way where like you strip away a lot of like this like persona or whatever it is. So you end up getting to a point where you're stripped down. So when you know somebody and you get to know them through that aspect of it, you tend to make pretty good friends because they see you in a vulnerable way that a lot of other people don't. So at least for me, I know I've met a lot of people through the gym because of that. Not so much lately, just because I said at corporate gyms and stuff, it's usually just kind of, put the headphones in and go. But I mean, I definitely think that's a pretty good lesson to kind of focus on. The one that we've kind of danced around a little bit, and I know you've talked about it specifically on a few podcasts, is that like the actual gym is not just about physical activity, but it's also about mental, saneness. It's your therapy in a way. And that's what I have gotten to learn for myself. We talked about it on a previous podcast that I got to a point where I was working just way too much. I didn't have time for the gym. I didn't have time to eat well. And I realized that my mental health was kind of waning because of that. And when I got back into the gym, I was able to really reset a lot of those maybe hormone levels or whatever it was. And it really helped me kind of be able to achieve more and kind of have a more balanced lifestyle. So like I kind of also like take that to life and say like I just got back from Mexico and on a vacation, and I do a terrible job at like taking vacations. I do a terrible job at taking breaks from work. I think if anybody's watched or listened to this podcast, know that I'm probably a workaholic. I'm one of those people that are I have a mental health thing with work. I definitely work too much. But what I'll say is that like even taking that break, that mental break, that though I might not be doing anything physically during that time of vacation, just not doing anything helps so much to when I get back to doing everything else. So it's it's thinking about how sometimes you need to do what you need to do to kind of get those mental breaks. And that's the gym has taught me that like if I'm not going to the gym at least on a semi-regular basis and doing something, I know that there's some things in my personal life that are getting like kind of manipulated in a bad way. Yeah,
100%. And obviously I'm wearing his gear, but I'm a huge fan of The Rock, obviously from my wrestling days. But of what he talks now, he talks about the gym being his anchor, and I use that same terminology quite often too because it's me time for me. It's where I can kind of unplug. Now, granted, I have my phone with me. I'm still sometimes responding to emails. It's a bad habit, but it's a chance for me to kind of just like release and have like just feel good, right? Like people talk about the runner's high. Your dopamine levels are high and like your endorphins are crazy. Like that's what the gym is for me. It's a chance, and I would love to see stats on the number of mental health cases that we have in our country and the people that suffer from mental health. The ones that don't have something like CTE, right, where there's no actual damage to the brain compartment, but like if you struggle with mental health, how many of those individuals are physically active? I'd love to see like the correlation between the two. I don't know where it is, but I would feel, and this is opinion, so those listening, if you know the stats, let me know. But I would feel like those who are more physically active or maybe even weight trained are less likely to suffer from mental health. Now with a caveat, if you're a competitor, you probably suffer from mental health more than somebody else, right? Like because you constantly look at stage pictures and you're like, man, I wish I looked like that. So just the average gym goer, the person that goes to the gym 3-4 days a week, maybe me who goes 6 days a week but doesn't compete and doesn't like look at myself in a different light, I bet we struggle from mental health issues significantly less than those who don't because it's a place, and you said it, iron therapy. We would have, there should be literally therapy centers built around weight training and have them come in and it should be covered by their medical insurance if it needs to, or give it a reimbursement for it because I think it significantly reduces cases of mental health, which is abundantly crazy right now, not in our country, but all over the places, to see if it actually helps. Because I think it does. If you put people through a weight train, what's going to happen is they're going to start seeing physical changes to their body. They're going to feel better. They're going to love something and have a hobby, and it just gives them something to look forward to and do. and doesn't give them as much time to think about all the bad shit that goes through their heads that makes them suffer from these thoughts and ideas that they have, which are just troubling not only to them but to their family and friends too. So that is a massive thing that I firmly believe in, that I think our healthcare system in this country could significantly benefit from, is just like offer reimbursement on gym memberships and iron therapy sessions for those who suffer from mental health. And I bet you it would significantly change that one aspect of what's going on right now in our world.
Yeah, I know I think a friend of both of ours, like Matt Hesse, that they own like Performix and a bunch of kind of other brands in their portfolio, but they have a nonprofit called, I think, FitOps, where it's all about like transitioning, I think, veterans and people that have kind of went through some tough things, what you're saying, and transitioning them into a lifestyle of fitness, be that personal trainers or whatever, but it's kind of reacclimating them to day-to-day life, but in a more fitness sense, because I think that's a story that Matt kind of had with himself. I think veteran, and kind of transitioned his life with fitness. So, I mean, I think there's use cases already kind of happening there where, like, if you are able to put those people through like fitness and health and really get them on that regimen, it can help them transition from a very difficult period of their life being in military.
Yeah, and you see people all the time who are in military that have seen some really crazy shit that you and I are lucky enough to never have to experience. They do great things for all of us so that way we can have our freedoms and all of our rights in this country. When they come back, PSTD, right? When they suffer
stress disorder.
Yes, that's no bullshit. Like, that's tough. So, but you've heard veterans that go on to take a world of fitness, that like the one-legged monster, right? Like, he turned to fitness. He lost his fucking leg in combat, and he turned to fitness to help basically like save his life. And so many people have done that. And I think that it's very powerful. It's not just so that way you can have 6-pack abs and 14 to 17-inch biceps. Like, it can really help you not only clear your head mentally, it can help you perform better in the workplace. And we've talked about that, I think, on one of our first episodes. So that is a huge lesson that the gym, really not even a lesson, just kind of like what the gym gives back to you if you take it seriously and you do it. But yeah, Matt's program with FitOps is phenomenal. I'm actually going to go out to New York in a couple weeks and meet with Matt and check out the whole FitOps program. So I'm super stoked about it because I think it's a brilliant idea and I think it does really, really good. And I'd love to chat with him more. And who knows, maybe we'll bring him on this podcast sometime and actually talk about that topic, because I think a lot of people would enjoy hearing about what he's doing for these veterans who are coming back and how that impacts the term of mental health, because I do think there's a strong correlation there for the better.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, there are a ton of different lessons, a lot of things that the gym has given me since I've been in the gym now, 10 plus years on a consistent basis, that I'm super thankful for. So that's why when I walk into that place, it's my sanctuary. I respect the shit out of it. Josh, the same way. We make a living in this space within fitness and sports nutrition. So I think if those listening out there, if any of these resonated with you, obviously hit us up. We're on Facebook, 2 Guys, 1 Shaker Cup. We are on iTunes, Spotify, and YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Stay up to date with all the new podcast launches every Thursday here on all of our different platforms. You can follow Josh on all of his social platforms too for Jay Shaw Consulting. We're at Fitness Informant, all different platforms. But help us out as well. Write us a review because it helps out the algorithm so more people can discover this podcast. And we're going to keep this thing rolling. And Josh, you talk about it all the time. Like, if they have topics, how do people get us the information on those topics so we can talk about them?
Yeah, I mean, I think any kind of commenting on any of our social, especially like Facebook or on YouTube, it would be great. Even just contacting both you or I would be kind of easy. I know a few times people have mentioned some different topics and we've taken them and kind of integrated them in. So the more that we can get some feedback from the listeners and give you guys exactly what you're looking for, the better this all works. I mean, we're obviously going to still kind of focus on a lot of the stuff that we think is going to be the most valuable to the most amount of people. But anytime you guys have any suggestions, any comments, things you'd like to see us change for the future, we're all open ears. We don't think we're perfect. We're more than happy to take any of that criticism into consideration.